She was loved by everyone, engaged, excited for the future. Then she vanished. But 24 hours later, she sent a message from a phone that had already been found, shattered underwater. Welcome to Detective Stories by Asma, where every secret has a shadow, every smile hides a truth, and every story will haunt you long after the final twist. Subscribe if you're ready to follow the clues into the darkest corners of the human mind. She was the kind of woman everyone adored, Claire Jennings. 31. High school English teacher. Bright smile, kind eyes, and the kind of heart that remembered every student's name, even years after they'd graduated. In just 5 days, she was supposed to walk down the aisle in a beautiful lace gown she'd picked with her sister. 5 days away from saying "I do" to the man she thought she'd spend forever with, who's dead, Claire disappeared. It started on a Thursday morning. Claire didn't show up for work. No calls. No texts. Our phone? Oh, completely unlike her. Her sister, Emily, tried calling again and again. Nothing. David, Claire's fiancé, said he'd last seen her the night before, around 10 p.m., say she'd gone for a walk. She said she needed fresh air. She never came back. By noon, she was officially reported missing. The search began immediately. Police combed the nearby woods and coastline. David walked with them, hands in pockets. Eyes red. "I just want her back," he kept saying. Something didn't sit right. That evening, just before sundown, her phone was found, shattered, at the edge of a rocky cliff just outside town, known as Mariner's Drop. Locals knew it well, a scenic view, a popular hiking spot, and occasionally, a place where people went to end their lives. Police leaned toward the obvious. Maybe Claire had jumped. There was no sign of struggle. No footprints but her own. Case almost closed. One person didn't buy it. Emily. She wouldn't do that. She was scared of heights. She wouldn't even climb the school ladder to hang banners. And she was excited about the wedding. She just picked up her dress last week. Emily's words planted the first seed of doubt, and that's when I, Detective Abner Ryan, was called in. I arrived at the Jennings home around 9 a.m. the next day. A modest little house tucked into a quiet street, the kind of place where neighbors wave at each other every morning. The front porch still had white ribbons tied to the railing, leftovers from Claire's surprise bridal shower. Inside, David sat stiffly on the couch, sipping cold coffee. He looked tired, but not broken. His eyes were dry, calculated. He asked if I wanted tea before I even sat down. Abner, calm but firm. "You said Claire left for a walk around 10 p.m.? David, nodding. "She was anxious. Said she couldn't sleep." Abner, "Did she take her phone?" David, "Always did. For music." Abner, "And you didn't follow her?" David, "She needed space." That word again. Space, a convenient excuse. Or maybe the truth. I asked to see Claire's room. Everything was spotless. Well, spotless. Her bed was made. Phone charger unplugged. A note on the nightstand that read, "Tomorrow, hair trial at 11. Don't forget to bring the veil." A woman planning her wedding, her death. It was the living room that gave me pause. On the bookshelf, there was a small framed photo. Claire, standing beside her students, smiling. Tucked behind it, barely noticeable, a torn piece of paper. Half a note, burned at the edges. 3 words still visible. He found out. I pocketed it carefully. No prints, no signature. Later that day, I had the forensics team analyze her phone. Water damage. Cracked screen. They recovered something unexpected. A voicemail, timestamped before she vanished. Day after. Claire's phone was found at 6 p.m. That voicemail was sent 24 hours after her disappearance. How? I pressed play. He knows. He knows what I did. I think he's watching me. If you get this, I'm sorry." My blood turned cold. That wasn't the voice of a woman giving, it was the voice of a woman running for her life. Who was he? What had she done? And why was her phone found broken? If she used it after. I returned to Mariner's Drop. This time, I searched the cliffs myself, and 20 feet down the slope, hidden beneath a bush, I found it. A single red ribbon, same as the ones on her porch, tied around a tree branch. Like a marker. But for what? It was getting dark. Each ocean below roared like it was hungry, and it couldn't shake the feeling. Someone had planned this, carefully. Coldly, Claire's phone wasn't dropped. It was placed, a stage. A distraction. Someone wanted us to believe she was dead, Claire Jennings. Might still be alive. And if she was, then we were already running out of time. On paper, David Pearson was the dream fiancé. Architect. Well-spoken. Good-looking. Met Claire at a charity auction 3 years ago. Bought an oil painting for $600, then gave it to. Been inseparable ever since. But the cracks were already there. Just had to know where to look. I sat down with David for a second time. This time at the station, looked tense, but composed. No fidgeting. No trembling. Too controlled. "Abner, tell me more about that night." "David, like I said, she went out for a walk. I stayed in. Watched a movie." "Abner, which movie?" "David, The Bourne Identity, I think." Too vague. Too convenient. And too easily verified. I pulled David's phone records that night. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., he made 0 calls. He received one. From a number saved as Mark C. Duration. 3 minutes, 42 seconds, time 11:12 p.m. Just over an hour after Claire vanished. I called Mark. "Mark, David said I was with him that night?" "Abner, yes." "Mark, that's strange. I spoke to him for a few minutes on the phone, but no, I haven't seen him in over a week." Line number 1. I revisited Claire's home. Noticed the trash hadn't been taken in the kitchen bin, underneath a pile of coffee filters and wrappers. A torn envelope. On it, Claire Jennings, final notice. A loan statement. Claire was over $9,000 and David never mentioned that. Why? I met up with Jenna, Claire's closest friend and fellow teacher. Jenna, they weren't doing well, not for months. Abner, how so? Jenna, she told me she was having doubts, said David was. Intense. Controlling sometimes. He didn't like her going out without him. He'd go through her phone. Abuse? Maybe not physical, but emotional? It was beginning to make sense. Claire had been confiding in Jenna, saving money on the side. Even secretly looked at apartments, small, cheap ones, downtown. She was going to leave him after the wedding. Not go through with it. She just didn't know how to say it. She felt trapped. And David? He told everyone she was happy. Excited. Couldn't wait to marry. Why was Claire secretly planning an escape? We obtained surveillance footage from a gas station near their home. Timestamp. 10:47, roughly 45 minutes after Claire left, to show David's car, clearly identifiable, driving in the opposite direction of the house. BT claimed he never left. Lie number 2. I brought David in again. Abner, where did you really go after Claire left that night? David flatly, I stayed home. Abner, we have you on camera. Your car, headed towards South Ridge. David says nothing. Abner, what's in South Ridge, David? David, long pause, nothing. I just drove to clear my head. He was unraveling, one detail at a time. Things escalated when we got a ping from the tech team analyzing Claire's phone data. Even though the phone had been water damaged, they'd recovered deleted texts. One message stood up, sent from Claire to an unknown number, 2 days before she vanished. "We need to talk. He's getting suspicious." Is that David? Or someone else? And who was she trying to meet? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept going back to her voice. That voicemail, he knows. He's watching me. I'm sorry, I played it again. And again, at minute 2:34. I noticed something faint, almost lost in static. Sound of glass breaking, followed by breathing, fast, labored, like someone running. Claire had been running, terrified, and she had tried to leave a message that no one would hear. Until now. At 2:15 p.m. the next day, a park ranger found something in the woods near Mariner's Drop. It was a purse. Claire's, hidden beneath leaves, still zipped, still intact. Inside, her engagement ring, neatly placed in a folded napkin and a blood-stained tissue. But the real shock? Her phone history showed one last message. Typed, but never sent, left open in the text field. "If anything happens to me, look at David's car." And that's exactly when someone disappears. The first truth you must accept is this: you never really know anyone. Not fully. Not deeply. Not completely. Claire Jennings wore a smile every day. But behind that smile, behind the classroom laughter and bridal showers, she was hiding something, and I was about to find out what. My next stop was Eastview High School, where Claire taught English Lit. Her classroom was untouched, like a moment frozen in time, chalk still on the board. Essays half graded on her desk, a tiny cactus by the window. Still alive. Still waiting. Students walked by, whispering. Eyes red. One girl, Paige, a senior, lingered near the doorway. "Abner, were you close to Miss Jennings?" Paige nods. She was. Different. She listened. "Abner, did she ever seem scared?" Paige, hesitant, not scared, just distracted lately. "Abner, distracted how?" Paige, she kept looking at the clock, leaving early. Once I saw her crying in her car after school. She didn't see me. I asked the principal for permission to check Claire's office space. Bottom drawer. Locked. I picked it open. Inside, I found a small leather-bound journal. And a single photograph, torn in half. Claire on one side. A man's arm wrapped around her. But his face? Ripped out of the frame. The journal wasn't about students. It was personal. Very personal. "I can't live this double life anymore. David doesn't know. But if he finds out, it's over. He followed me last week. I'm sure of it. I told him to stop texting, but he won't." The first solid clue. I brought the photo to Claire's best friend, Jenna. "Abner, do you recognize this?" Jenna, "Oh my God, that's Matthew." Abner, "Matthew?" Jenna, Claire dated him before David. Back when she lived in Baltimore. He was older. Intense. The breakup was messy. According to Jenna, Claire and Matthew had reconnected briefly last year. Never told David. She mentioned Matthew had changed. That he was better now. That he'd helped her feel alive again. Jenna begged her to cut ties. Claire didn't listen. Pulled Claire's recent call logs. A burner number appeared several times over the last 2 months. Each call, no longer than 3 minutes, always made late at night. Tracing it led us to a prepaid phone. Purchased in Baltimore. Registered under the name M. Carter. Matthew Carter. I drove to Baltimore that evening. Matthew lived in a rundown apartment above a closed music store. Opened the door shirtless, clearly annoyed when I said Claire's name. He froze. "Abner, when was the last time you saw Claire Jennings?" Matthew, "A month ago, maybe more." "Abner, she's missing." Matthew, "I know." He knew. That admission didn't sound like shock. Sounded like guilt. Matthew claimed Claire ended things, that she couldn't juggle both lives, said she was scared of David. Matthew. She told me she was planning to leave him, that she didn't feel safe anymore. I returned to town with more questions than answers. The one detail stuck in my mind, that journal entry. He followed me last week. I reviewed nearby security footage from a grocery store Claire visited often, and there, on a Thursday evening, was David, waiting in his seat across the street, watching the entrance. Claire entered. 10 minutes later, she left, hurried, looking over her shoulder, hailed her the entire way home. I now had motive, jealousy, control, betrayal. And I had fear, Claire's fear, documented in her own words. That night, I stared at the final line in her journal, "If I vanish." It wasn't an accident. I looked back at the half-burned note I found at her house. He found out. And then, I noticed something I missed before. Pressed into the paper, barely visible, was an imprint from the page before. I shaded it with pencil. Words appeared. Under the boards, living room, far right corner. I rushed back to Claire's home, pried open the floorboards in the far right corner, and what I found was a flash drive labeled insurance. On it was a video. The flash drive was all scratched, labeled with a single word in black ink. Insurance, a message from the grave? Or a final cry for help? I plugged it into my laptop, hands slightly trembling. There was only one file, a video titled, "For the record, July 3rd, 11:48 p.m. I hit play. Claire's face appeared, pale as swollen from crying, was sitting in her car, windows rolled, rain pounding the windshield behind her, breath fogging the glass, stared straight into the lens. If you're watching this, something has happened to me. This isn't easy. I never wanted it to get this far, but I don't know who to trust anymore. Not even the people closest to me. I've been followed, watched, and I think my phone's been cloned. He knows I've been seeing someone else. He confronted me yesterday." Her voice cracked. She looked over her shoulder. Then she leaned forward. "David said if I ever left him, he'd ruin me. He said no one would believe me, that he'd make it look like an accident. But it's not just him. I think someone else is involved. Someone who's been in the house. I found my spare key. Moved, just slightly, the second time this week." I paused the video. Rewound. Timestamp. July 3rd, exactly 4 days before Claire vanished. This wasn't just fear. This was a woman leaving a trail because she knew what was coming. "There's a man who's been contacting me. Keeps saying he knows David's secret. That he has proof he wanted to meet. Said we could expose him together. But I don't know if I can trust him either. He calls himself Adam." Abner's mind races. Adam? No mention of him anywhere. No texts. No calls, only Claire's word. I scrubbed forward in the video. Claire, voice trembling. "I've hidden everything I know. This drive, my journal, my phone records. If anything happens to me, please give this to Detective Abner Ryan. I just want out. I just want to be free. If David says he was home that night, he's lying. He followed me. I know it." I sat there, stunned. This wasn't just a disappearance. It was a setup, a trap that someone planned with cold, careful precision. Indy Claire knew. They had the drive analyzed. Metadata showed 2 edits, meaning someone else had accessed the video file after it was first recorded. Only one person could have done that. The same person with access to Claire's laptop, which is David. "Abner, you said Claire never told you she was afraid." "David, she didn't. She wasn't." "Abner, then how do you explain this?" David's face turned white. "David, where? Where did you get that?" "Abner, she left it for me, hidden, just like her engagement ring." "Why'd you edit the file, David?" No response. For the first time, David had no answer. Knew we were closing in. something still didn't make sense. Claire mentioned another man, Adam, and someone had entered her house using the spare once. But twice. That wasn't David's style. He was blunt, angry, jealous. This felt more calculated. That evening, I went back to Claire's street, walked the sidewalk, watched the streetlights flicker. One house across from hers had a small camera mounted under the eaves. Barely visible, a neighbor, a camera facing Claire's front porch. I knocked. Neighbor, oh, Miss Jennings. Such a sweet girl. Haven't seen her since last week. Abner, mind if I take a look at your security footage from that night? 10:47 p.m., Claire leaves the house. 10:53 p.m. A dark figure approaches her door, hooded. Glove pulls something from under the mat. Okay, who's David? This man was shorter, leaner. He didn't go in right away. He stood there and waited, like he knew Claire was coming back, when Claire never returned. The figure disappeared into the shadows. But just before he left, he turned toward the camera, a faint glimpse of his face. Half hyphen, and he wasn't a stranger. I'd seen him once before. In a photo next to Claire, torn half, and that's when I realized. This wasn't about love or jealousy. This was about something much darker, something buried. The man on the footage, he wasn't a stranger. His face, half caught in the shadows, matched the torn photo from Claire's drawer, the same photo she tried to destroy. Matthew Carter. Not gone, not done, and definitely not innocent, and a motive, and now. I had proof he was at Claire's house the night she vanished. One question still burned. Why? Why would Matthew, someone Claire once trusted, come back into her life? Just to end it? The door was unlocked. Inside, it looked abandoned, dust on the floor, mail pile, each year thick with mold and neglect. On the table, a file. Marked, Jennings, confidential. Inside, newspaper clippings, police reports, and old photos. A stalking file was watching her. For years, in the back of one photo, a handwritten note. She doesn't deserve him. She was mine first. Obsession. Control. Delusion. This wasn't love, it was possession. We got a search warrant, UG deeper into Matthew's background. What we found changed the case completely. 3 years ago, Matthew Carter was questioned in a separate missing person case. A woman named Lily Roth. Also a teacher, also engaged, vanished weeks before her wedding. Case still unsolved. Claire wasn't his first obsession. It was his pattern. Inside Matthew's old storage unit, detectives found a locked trunk. Inside it, Claire's engagement ring, her cell phone, her missing journal pages, and a bracelet. Not Claire's, it belonged to Lily Roth. It was real. Everything Claire feared. She tried to leave, tried to expose the truth. Matthew found out. And when he did, he took everything from her that night. July 7th, Claire left her house, was headed to the police, at the flash drive. The evidence, she never made it. Matthew was waiting, in her home, with the key he stole months ago. We traced Matthew's final movements to an old cabin near Marlow Lake, his family's property. Police swarmed the site and the cellar. Behind rotted floorboards, they found Claire. Barely alive, bruised, weak, but alive. I just want to be free, she fought, survived. She gave her statement, confirmed everything David was controlling wasn't him. It was Matthew. Broken into her home, stopped, lured her into trusting him again just enough to strike. Matthew Carter was arrested without incident, charged with attempted murder, stalking, and kidnapping, while he refused to speak in court. His journal told the rest. She loved me once. That should have been enough. Cases like this, they stay with you because behind every missing poster is a truth waiting to be found. And behind every truth is someone who fought to be believed. Claire didn't just survive, exposed a predator, broke the cycle, became her own closure. We found her in the dark, but she brought the light. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More chilling cases and twisted mysteries are coming soon. This was Detective Stories by Asma, where every secret has a shadow.